Good morning, everybody, and thank you all very much for joining us here today. And a big thank you to Tasols for inviting us along. My name is Ian Bowden. I'm a tax partner here at BDO. I'm our global head of what we call our tax automation and innovation practice. And joining me this morning is Scott Mills, one of our directors, who's been responsible for a lot of the work on the OneStream platform. We've got Catherine in the room from BDO in Australia to hopefully answer any questions that you may have at the end of the session. But you've got the joy of us for the next 30 minutes as we take you through what's possible within the OneStream platform as it relates to tax. Just before I hand over to Scott, who will take you through a bit of a demo today, we're more than happy to schedule further detailed dives via the Tasols team at the end, so please do speak to their team and we can get that organised for you. But just by way of background and history in terms of why we're speaking to you today, BDO is a customer, firstly, of OneStream. We've been using the product for a number of years, and we spotted an opportunity within the platform where it didn't quite do tax how we wanted it to be done. So we approached the OneStream team and asked them whether they would let us build and develop a more advanced solution. They told us to put our money where our mouth was, so we did, and we've spent the last 4 years developing with a number of the leading implementation partners, including Tasols, the advanced tax solutions that we're going to take you through today. So we've got 3 modules that we're going to show and highlight. First and foremost is the core tax provision solution, which covers IFRS, it covers different gaps approaches, it covers the balance sheet to handle the Australian situation for a lot of you, it covers a more P&L approach. We've really given that a huge amount of work and effort to cover the globe from that side of things. We've got a Pillar 2 solution that's been validated and tested by all 166 of our BDO member firms. They've really enjoyed doing those calculations, but we've been able to create a global solution, all native, all part and parcel of OneStream, and finally the country-by-country reporting module as well. There are a couple of other products in development at the moment. We are working on a transfer pricing module to do the cost allocation. We're working on a transfer pricing module to do the local file master file. And there's a little bit of work at the earlier stages in relation to some of the ESG taxes in relation to carbon emissions, those types of things. But the core solution at the moment is very much tax provision, Pillar 2 and country-by-country reporting, and delighted to take you through that today. And Catherine will be able to answer any questions you may have. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Scott. I'm going to take you through 25 minutes and show you what the solution offers. It's all native to OneStream. There's a huge amount of flexibility there, but we've gone ahead and built quite a comprehensive solution to offer you a full end-to-end package. So Scott, over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ian. I'll just share my screen so we can see the solution on screen now. Now, as Ian mentioned, we have the 3 modules in the solution currently. We have tax provision, country by country, and Pillar 2. We're going to take you through all 3 today, give you a very high level view at this. We'll start with our tax provision process here. So as Ian mentioned, the tax provision process supports both IFRS, US GAAP, and with the deferred tax, we can support the P&L or the balance sheet approach as well. Clicking into the tax provision solution here, we can see along the top we have our 3 areas: to inputs, our return to provision, and our reports. We can also see some very key data points on the dashboard here, so we can see some data points in whichever format you want, and this is all very easily configured by your Tasols team. Clicking into one of these aspects here will load us through into the main area of the data input. I'm just going to click on the current year inputs here. This will load us into our main form here. What we are able to see along this left-hand side is all of the different areas of the application here. So we can see the tax processes, tax provision, country by country, and Pillar 2, and the types of schedule input here. Once we click on a type of input, this loads all of the forms. So here we can see in the data input, we have all of the forms that are required for our tax provision process. We walk through from entering tax rates, doing our return to provision process, through to our current provision and into our temporary difference and deferred tax analysis. We'll start here on the current provision, and this is where we can see, starting at the top, our pre-tax income. Now we move through this with our gap to stat adjustments. So we have our permanent temporary adjustments to get us to our profit under local GAAP. We then have a number of permanent and temporary differences within the form. These are all configured to your requirements very easily by your configuration team. This gets us to our pre-tax profit here. All of the losses are tracked on a year-by-year basis, so we can track these in detail, types of loss across different years as well to give us a lot of detail within this. The system fully supports the, low subnational taxes as well. So if we have any state taxes in the US or local taxes elsewhere, then the system fully supports these, and these can interact with your national taxes as relevant. We then have a number of after-tax adjustments applied here. Within here, we have sensitized these for Pillar 2 as well. So we pull out certain aspects such as our uncertain tax positions within here, so we can isolate those within our country by country and Pillar 2 processes to enable you to have as much automation as possible. Now, on the topic of automation, OneStream is incredibly powerful with its automation capabilities. On the right-hand side here, we see we have this import console data button. Every time a user presses this button, it will refresh data live from elsewhere within OneStream. So what this enables us to do, as we saw at the top of the form here, is to automate many different data points. So we can see that our profit comes in here from our finance system. We can also within here pull through other data points relevant to our tax adjustments as well. And we can apply factors to those as relevant. This is all done via the front end and is a key enhancement to the product here. Moving through into our temporary difference analysis here. As we mentioned earlier, this fully supports the balance sheet approach. We can see here, I'll show you first, this is a P&L approach, so we can see our opening to closing basis here on a line-by-line basis. We do an analysis here of all of the movements. Under a balance sheet approach, of course, this looks slightly different. So I will show you now on screen what this looks like under the balance sheet approach very quickly on screen now. So clicking back into the tax provision, we can load through into the current year inputs. On a balance sheet basis, we will have all of our balance sheet accounts entered within our form here. This will show us on an opening to closing basis our different adjustments for deferred tax, so we can compare our book and tax balances within here. The book balances, of course, will be automated from your book, and we can see here we move through any non-qualifying, analyze any non-qualifying amounts and compare this to our tax basis. The system then calculates our closing, opening and closing deferred tax. It will in the first instance post anything to the current provision unless we analyze any amounts out. So this is all fully supported within the solution, and the system will then apply any of the deferred tax. Recognition decisions are made within here as well, so all of our deferred tax not recognized is tracked through the solution here. Similar to how we saw with the other forms, this import console data button will refresh data through for our balance sheet accounts as well.
I think that's a really important point. Because this is all native OneStream, we can bring data perfectly and seamlessly in straight from your finance cube. We do have for those that are already on OneStream, the finance cube and the tax cube where this data would sit side by side. So we're able to mirror and replicate and bring across data in a seamless way. We do consider something slightly different for entity structures to allow for branches, allow for transparent entities, JVs, because there may be treatment that may not need to merge. But because OneStream's so good at bringing data in from lots of sources, the automated data feed doesn't just need to come from the console cube. From tax purposes, you might be having data sourced from other areas as well, and we're able to bring that in from other places and push it across into the tax cube. So being able to consolidate and bring all of the data into one place before starting the calculations is a really powerful feature. Everything that you've seen in OneStream or that you're familiar with in OneStream around workflows, audit trails, all of that good stuff is part and parcel of everything you see here in the package. We've just amplified a few of the options down the right-hand side to make it easier to sign off the workflows and bring in data when you need it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ian. So we can do all of our deferred tax analysis in here. We can do our gap to stat and stat to tax separately as well. All of the recognition decisions are made in here. All of the FX is handled natively by the system. We can then do some analysis on our current tax as well. So within our current tax, we here can analyze all of the amounts and allocate these to different buckets of our current tax to enable us to analyse these in more detail. These are all tracked by year as well, so we have full visibility of all of our current tax balances, and this allows us as well to separate out these data points later on within Pillar 2. Deferred tax has already been analysed in the previous columns, so what we can do here within the tax account reconciliation is actually see all of our double entries coming through, so we can see all of our P&L and balance sheet amounts coming through. Each row will net to 0, so we can see that we have full double entry bookkeeping captured within the system. Down the bottom of the schedule, we can also generate our journals as well. So this enables you to either push this data back into finance if you want to automate that process, or otherwise produce a journal report for every data point across every entity within your finance cube as well. So you're able to produce those reports, and then once your finance colleagues have posted those, we can pull that data back through to show that the two systems align, which enables us to sign off on the workflow. Once we've done all of this, we have a number of reports. So we have all of our effective tax rate reports at the local entity rate, as well as at your group tax rate as well. And there are a number of reports and disclosures which come out of the box as well. So the reports will allow you to view any of these forms at an aggregated level. So whether that is by division or whether that is by whether that's by country or however you want to aggregate your data, you're able to do this within these forms here as well. So we can see here, we can roll this up into an entity, to a jurisdiction level or a division level if you want to analyze that. We can also produce our disclosures for our accounts as well. So anything that we need to put within our consolidated financial statements, we can produce those automatically within the system as well. All of the data integration is front end, so this is easily configured, period specific, and can be changed period to period if relevant. So that was a very high level overview of the tax provision process, and we've started there just to show you the data coming into OneStream and how that can flow through into the Pillar 2 process as well. So I'll move back to our homepage here.
And just while Scott's moving, I think each of these modules can be used independently. And for some groups, you may already have a tax provision process that you're using on another product. That's no problem at all. There's an opportunity if all three modules are taken together for data to move seamlessly between all three. And we see that being particularly relevant as we start getting into country by country reporting in Pillar 2. Pillar 2 is very much, for those that are inside Pillar 2, is very much a data challenge. Lots of new data points, lots of new calculations to be done. And the opportunity here is a number of the data points within the tax provision area, and you'll probably have seen on the screen we added a few extras into the tax provision process that need to be calculated as part of that tax provision process and then pushed back into the Pillar 2 calculation itself. So Pillar 2 for us is very much a data challenge. The modules can work in isolation. There is synergies in using them as an integrated because data can flow between them. There's a number of items that are calculated in provision that will flow into Pillar 2 and vice versa. So a Pillar 2 calculation needs to be pushed back into the tax provision for a further analysis, etc. So it's just worth considering how they can work independently or as a unified structure.
So I'm just going to quickly go over country by country reporting. We have our inputs and reports within here. Within our inputs, this is to demonstrate to you the power of the automation within OneStream. So your country by country reports have the theoretical possibility of being fully automated. So it just becomes a review exercise for you. You can see all of these data points are flowing in here. So if you have the sufficient granularity and data within your OneStream instance already, then you can bring these through. This then gets summarized in a table. We do some entity classification down here, which gets copied between periods and can be amended if needed. But you can see the power of the automation here. The system will then produce your disclosures, your tables 1, 2, and 3 reports for you automatically within the system. You see this being summarized here. Table 2 will contain all of your non-financial data, your addresses, tax identification numbers, and so on and so forth. And Table 3, because FX is native to OneStream, it will populate all of that information automatically for you. So you will just need to put in any additional information as relevant. This is really powerful. And this data is also recycled into our Pillar 2 process for the safe harbor analysis.
I think that's a really important point in terms of country by country reporting. The rules and the wording is very clear in terms of that needing to be a qualifying. So the more we can do to automate the data, less human hands touching it, you stand a better chance of that CBCR being qualifying, and then we can use it wholeheartedly as part of the Pillar 2 analysis to work out where the safe harbour sits.
So Pillar 2, within here, we have a full end-to-end process. So we start with collecting all of the information relevant to the group, the entities within the group and the jurisdictions within the group. We move forward into that safe harbour analysis where we're recycling a lot of those data points from our CBCR and enhanced by tax provision data as well. For those entities that don't qualify for the safe harbour, we move into the full calculation. All of the rules within the calculations are validated by the BDO Global Network and maintained on an ongoing basis as well. That is a key factor to this solution, is that this is ongoing maintenance in relation to the rules and as well your globe information return as well. So you will have the return and the layout as required for wherever you need to file that return, and if that changes, that will also be centrally maintained and updates pushed out for you, so you do not need to worry about the maintenance of these at all yourself. We have a very good high level overview here in terms of the data points, so we can see here safe harbours, those territories failing are in red, those passing are in green. We can see for the effective tax rate, those with an effective tax rate lower than 15% are highlighted in red for you. You can see where top-up tax has originated, so you know where you have problematic territories. So we'll just go through the schedules at a very high level here. We start with collecting all the information relevant to the group. Now, where these amounts are specified in the legislation, these are all centrally maintained for you as well. So again, something else you don't need to worry about maintaining yourself. Within the constituent entity, this is where we can capture this information. We can recycle information through from a tax provision solution as well. So things such as tax rates. We're doing some entity classification here as well. So you have predefined drop-down lists as per the return format for each of these data points to enable you to do this analysis within here. We can also do our elections here, so we can make annual and 5-year elections, and your 5-year elections will be rolled forward automatically unless revoked in a subsequent year. Very similar concept for your jurisdiction information. So within here, we have all of the information relevant to the jurisdiction, all of the elections within here, as well as the commencement dates for the legislation within each territory. This will all be centrally maintained as well, and this will tell the system whether it needs to calculate relevant parts of the top-up tax. We'll capture your group ownership information in the next schedule here, and this will be used in future releases to automate the IIR calculation. We can see here within the safe harbour all of these data points coming through, so we can see on the automated column here these data points coming through from elsewhere. This is coming from tax provision and from country by country. So we can see these amounts coming through, and we can block override of that as well, so we know that these amounts are consistent. All of the tests are run and the logic of the tests are shown on the face of the form here, and this you see the result of the test within here. Now, crucially, we're collecting all of the information in local currency, so FX becomes a systemized problem, not an end user problem. So you know you will have consistency with the numbers that you need to from your financial statements. This means that all of the tests will run and validate against the thresholds in the currency as specified in legislation. So in this example, our thresholds are specified in euros, so we can then translate everything into euros to run our tests, so we can see whether they pass or fail each of these tests within here. We can see a summary of the safe harbour within here as well. So within here, we can see all of the results of each of these safe harbour tests and the thresholds, so you can see quickly where this has happened. We have additional safe harbour tests in here as well, so our QDMTT and our UTPR tests, and all of that logic is built in here as well. And that list for the QDMTT safe harbour will be updated as the OECD updates that list as well. The once out, always out rule is configured here, so the system will recognise if it's failed any of the safe harbours in a prior year, it will need to fail in the current year. And the system will assume that if you qualify for a safe harbour, you will want to make that election, but you can disapply that if you need to do that for planning purposes.
There's a key point here, and just in terms of what this system offers versus some of the others, because this is an integrated system, it's part and parcel of OneStream. We can and we do encourage that the data be captured in local currency. We find that really important. There's 1 or 2 products on the market where they work on a single currency basis. So if you have any overseas entities outside of Australia, they're having to do the FX decisions themselves. and then they are putting those numbers in that don't match up to anything in their systems because they've done a translation associated with them. We, of course, offer that as a supporting approach, but our preferred option, and where OneStream is super powerful, is that we want to be able to capture the numbers in local currency. The local teams put the numbers in local currencies. It matches to what's in the local systems. You can see it in local currencies, and then the system makes the FX decision based on your policies and procedures, whether you're a PVA or a VAL, in terms of your FX approach to the system. Really powerful and a slight differentiator in the market, because there are some challenges, we have to be honest, with FX and how OECD has specified the rules, depending on your model that's there, but we think it's the more accurate and more appropriate way of doing it. So that's how we offer it in the system. You have both options.
Thank you, Ian. Now, for the full calculation itself, we've ensured that all of the data points relevant to the calculations are presented here in the form. And you can see this is cross-referenced to the globe model rules within here. Users do not need to leave the solution to see the globe model rules. These are all built within here, so users can see what they're being asked to input under the local legislation. We have expanded on these data points as guidance has issued some more granularity in this, and this is to enable you to maximize the amount of automation within here. Now, of course, not all of these data points are going to be relevant to you, and they're not going to match one-to-one to your data model. So you have the freedom to expand this out to add additional data points as relevant to the calculations here, and hide different points as well that aren't relevant to you. So if you aren't a shipping company, you can hide any of the shipping income exclusion schedules and forms down the left-hand side here as well. There's a very similar concept here for cover tax as well, everything cross-reference. The recast of deferred tax is all automated for you within here as well. Once we've collected that information, the calculation engine then starts kicking in. So this system will take all of the information we've input elsewhere, calculate the effective tax rate, and calculate any top-up tax in line with this. There are a number of fail-safes that are built in. So if a territory is past a safe harbor, but data is entered anyway, it will never calculate jurisdictional top-up tax for that jurisdiction. The system will then fully automate the rest of the process, so it's going to allocate this out to each of the entities in line with the allocation key. The IIR is an assisted process at the moment, so users will allocate this to parent entities, and the system will only show relevant parent entities within this form here. In future releases, this will be a fully automated process as well. To the extent that there is still top-up tax that hasn't been collected under the IIR, then the system will calculate any further amounts subject to the UTPR, and this will then be calculated automatically by the system in this schedule here. Once we've done all of these calculations, we can then go to our disclosures, which is where we will find our returns. There will be a catalogue of returns as each jurisdiction releases those, so you will have access to the relevant layout for where you need to file your return. The system fully supports all QDMTT functionality as well, and any nuances to do with QDMTT under local GAAP or local currency. So you can do all of those calculations there and produce your returns for those as well. That concludes our demonstration today. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time and listening to us, and we'll hand back over to the TASOLS team now. So thank you again for your time, and if you have any questions, please do raise them with the TASOLS team.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.